Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition. For decades, sewage spills from Tijuana have shut down our southern beaches. Now the city of San Diego may be getting involved. The mayor's push to join the movement suing the federal government over cross-border sewage spills. Plus, one local supervisor is urging the board to provide housing assistance for asylum seekers, a preview of tomorrow's vote. And marijuana may be legal in California, but with 75% of Californians still living in places where it's illegal, how to stop the black market from cutting into tax revenue. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. The city of San Diego is poised to join the legal battle to stop the flow of pollution at the U.S.-Mexico border. And KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson has details.
San Diego officials appear poised to ratchet up pressure on the federal government. The city council will talk about suing federal officials for failing to stop cross-border sewage flows. Mayor Kevin Faulconer says it's time to act.
This problem has been around for far too long, and we've worked very hard on the diplomatic approach on both sides of the border, and there's been a lot of progress, but not enough progress.
San Diego's move comes nearly a year and a half after the city of Imperial Beach, Chula Vista, and the Port of San Diego sued over the issue. Since then, the state of California and Surfrider Foundation have also sued.
We're demanding that the federal government do its job.
Vivian Moreno represents the city council district that includes the Tijuana River Valley. She is pushing for the city council to pursue legal action because she says the problem became personal for her back in 2017.
2 years ago, I think it was 14 days straight that there was a stench every single day coming out of my house, and I didn't know what it was until all fingers pointed in one direction. And I just think, nobody should live under those conditions ever.
There was a steady flow of water in the Tijuana River Monday, even though there hasn't been measurable rain for at least a week. Imperial Beach City Council member Paloma Aguirre says that likely means a key Mexican pump station was shut down, or a pipe that broke in Mexico more than a month ago still hasn't been fixed. She says South Bay residents suffer as a result.
We literally have had only 4 days of our beach being open. It has been closed for a long period of time. It was actually closed all the way up to Coronado, California. Right now, the stretch of beach between the border and south of Imperial Beach is currently closed because of all these polluted waters that are flowing right now.
The hope is that the federal officials who run the International Wastewater Treatment Plant here in the Tijuana River Valley will build the infrastructure they need to capture those renegade sewage flows from Mexico so the pollution doesn't reach the ocean. In the Tijuana River Valley, Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
The U.S. has a backlog of more than 800,000 asylum cases. Tomorrow, San Diego County supervisors will decide whether to temporarily house migrant families as they await their day in immigration court. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman has this preview.
Earlier this month, the County Board of Supervisors voted to look into using county property to temporarily house migrants seeking asylum.
Chairwoman Jacob, that motion passes with Supervisors Jacob and Gaspar voting no, all other supervisors being present and voting aye.
At the meeting, Supervisors Diane Jacob and Kristen Gaspar both said this wasn't the county's issue to deal with.
This is a federal and state responsibility. The feds and the state need to come up with federal and state property. We have a better purpose for our county properties that we've already identified.
It is the responsibility of our state to provide these shelters, and they are outright neglecting to do so.
Supervisors Nathan Fletcher and Greg Cox are proposing Tuesday to use an old courthouse scheduled for demolition that would be temporarily leased to a nonprofit to house the migrants.
So yes, the federal government should deal with it, but their failure to deal with this immigration issue does not relieve us of our obligation to confront the very real challenges to public health, to public safety, and compounding the homeless crisis.
Fletcher and Cox are proposing leasing the space to Jewish Family Service for $1, and the nonprofit would cover all operation and maintenance costs to run the shelter. In a statement to KPBS, Supervisor Cox said the proposal is a practical temporary solution to a complex ongoing problem that the county did not create. Supervisor Jim Desmond voted in favor of looking into county properties for a temporary shelter. He also echoed comments from Supervisor Jacob about prioritizing helping people who are homeless.
I do also think that we should be taking care of our own homeless folks first. We still have over 8,500 homeless people in this county of San Diego, a lot of them with behavioral health issues, which I think is they can't get jobs, they can't get housing. I think that they're even in a worse predicament than some of the asylum seekers.
District Attorney Summer Steffen is also weighing in on the temporary shelter vote, saying in a letter of support that the shelter would help protect the most vulnerable of our community from becoming crime victims and shelter our communities from numerous public health and safety issues. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
The Navy responds to an iNewsSource investigation, which finds a San Diego shipyard is ignoring rules designed to protect billion-dollar Navy warships. iNewsSource investigative reporter Brad Racino has the story.
Last year, HII San Diego Shipyard won a $52 million Navy contract to update the USS O'Kane, a billion-dollar destroyer. The contract, like all Navy ship repair contracts, requires HII to provide patrol boats to protect the O'Kane while it's under repair. Yet I toured the bay last week and found the O'Kane and another billion-dollar warship sitting unguarded at the HII San Diego shipyard. No patrol boats in sight. This matters because the Navy pays hundreds of millions of dollars each year to HII and to other San Diego shipyards for their services, and part of that money is supposed to pay for these patrol boats. This lack of security is not a new development. Last month, iNewsSource revealed that the Navy has known about the security gaps at the shipyards for at least 2 years and done nothing to fix it. Since that story aired, the two other yards, BAE Systems and NASSCO General Dynamics, appear to have come into compliance. HII has not. I shared video of my tour on the bay with HII and asked why the yard wasn't providing patrol boats. A company spokeswoman said the boats are on the water, they're just not readily visible. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource investigative reporter Brad Racino.
To see the photos and videos from iNewsSource's trip on the bay, go to inewssource.org. iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. Graphic details are beginning to emerge in the case of the Navy SEAL accused of war crimes. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says supporters maintain the Navy's charges are overblown.
Edward Gallagher was in court Friday for a series of motions. The SEAL is accused of using a knife to kill a teenage ISIS prisoner in his care and then posing with the body. May 3rd, 2017. The chief petty officer was on his 8th deployment. The defense wants to exclude testimony from SEALs in his platoon that Gallagher bragged of killing as many as 200 people on that 2017 deployment, including women and children. He is also charged with killing a man and a woman who were non-combatants. Gallagher was taken into custody at Camp Pendleton September 11th while he was in a meditation class with troops with traumatic brain injuries. Gallagher says he is innocent. His supporters, including Congressman Duncan Hunter, have attempted to have him removed from the brig at Miramar pending trial. His court-martial is set to begin February 19th. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
A proposed high-rise apartment building in Bankers Hill got final approval from the San Diego City Council today. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says the project overcame some neighborhood opposition.
The development is a 20-story building in Bankers Hill. It's a partnership between St. Paul's Episcopal Cathedral and the developer Graystar. The church will get the first 2 floors of the building for their new offices, and the developer will get 204 apartments, 18 of them affordable for very low-income households. Several Bankers Hill residents opposed the project over concerns the building's shadow would impact Balboa Park. But church volunteer Susan Jester says the project's benefits outweigh any drawbacks.
It's an extremely responsible urban development project that is the best possible use of this land and will allow St. Paul's to grow our efforts, expand our outreach. I urge you to vote in support of this project because it's not about the shade, it's about the light.
Now, the developer says they've been threatened with a lawsuit which could slow this project down. If that doesn't happen, they hope to break ground by the late summer. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, open for business. The challenges federal government agencies now face as another shutdown looms just 3 weeks away. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The State of the Union address will not take place tomorrow. However, a new date is on the table. President Trump initially agreed to a January 29th date, but due to the partial government shutdown, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi canceled it. Today, she offered the president a new date of February 5th, next Tuesday. No word yet if President Trump has agreed. California Senator Kamala Harris is kicking off her presidential campaign. On Sunday, she held her first formal rally in her hometown of Oakland. Senator Harris announced her presidential bid 1 week ago. At this weekend's rally, she took aim at the current administration and issues at the border.
We are here because the American dream and our American democracy are under attack and on the line like never before. When we have children in cages crying for their mothers and fathers, don't you dare call that border security. That's a human rights abuse.
Senator Harris is one of the first prominent Democrats to announce a 2020 presidential run. The former CEO of Starbucks says he is also considering running for president. He made the announcement last night on 60 Minutes. While Howard Schultz is a Democrat, sources close to him say he's considering running as a centric independent. The announcement caused immediate backlash from the Democratic Party and from President Trump, who called him not the smartest person. Legal pot growers in California may see a huge tax break this year. Lawmakers are introducing the tax break bill in order to help legal growers compete with black market prices. This comes after tax revenue from legal pot sales made $100 million less than projected. Lawmakers say the black market is still strong in California because it's cheaper than legal pot.
Right now, the illicit market is dominating the cannabis industry. These are bad actors. These are people who are evading taxes and making our communities less safe. We need to give the good guys a chance to succeed.
Legal pot growers currently face combined taxes of almost 50%. The new bill would lower the combined taxes to 30%. California's recreational marijuana sales came in well below projections. Cannabis sites Leafly.com's California bureau chief blames the black market. But he tells KQED's Thuy Vu the newly rolled out statewide delivery rules should help.
Joining me now to talk about this is David Downs, California Cannabis Bureau Chief for Leafly.com. David, always good to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Thuy.
Why was the amount of legal cannabis sales last year, an estimated $2.5 billion, so far less than what was projected? And what does that say, do you think, about California's efforts to try to reduce the numbers of people buying pot illegally?
It means it's going to take a little bit of time. About 3/4 of California does not allow physical retail cannabis stores, and so consumers can't go in there and spend their money on legal cannabis that way. We had the industry contract slightly as most medical dispensaries became recreational dispensaries. And it's important to remember that other states that legalized at the same time as us made even less money than we did. For example, Maine didn't make $1. Nevada started before us, but we still eclipsed Nevada's earnings in year one because we're just so big.
And proponents of legalization had promised that small producers would be protected, that they wouldn't be edged out by all the bigger companies that are coming along. 1 year later, has that promise come true?
Not at all. Cannabis has run into larger forces in capitalism in general, where you need millions and millions of dollars to open up some of these stores. And that gets back to local licensing and the hoops you have to jump through to open a store. You know how hard it is to run a lemonade stand or a hairdresser. Imagine that times 1,000 to open a cannabis store. The cities and the state is beginning to look at ways to make it easier for small businesses, but they face just a broader reality in this economy.
What are some of the things they're looking at to help smaller businesses?
So we're seeing cities like San Francisco and Oakland create equity programs that earmark licenses for small or minority-owned businesses. Those programs have gone statewide this year.
And this is to help to help people who were perhaps disproportionately affected during the war on drugs.
That's right. A lot of these people bore a lot of the burden of the drug war, and a lot of consumers believe they should have access to the legal markets and benefit from the upside of legalization. So that's starting to occur, and it's also starting a national conversation around how do we get more of these legacy actors in the legal industry.
Mm-hmm. And California has a huge surplus of cannabis. The State Department of Food and Agriculture estimates that California produces more than 15 million pounds of cannabis, but consumes just 2.5 million pounds annually. Much of that is smuggled eastward. So when the surplus is that big, is it possible for legalization to entirely tame the black market?
Over time, definitely. So the prices in the legal market are collapsing. They're down from a peak of $5,000 in the 90s per pound of marijuana down to maybe $1,000 or $500 now. And with the profits going down, so is the motive to grow it illegally in our forests or in homes and ship it east. As more and more states add legalization and the price starts to mirror other agricultural products, a lot of that impetus to be in the black market goes away.
So is there a tipping point or a catalyst, do you think, that will get us to that point when the legal market starts overtaking the black market for cannabis?
To a certain degree, it's already happened. Farmers are telling me that they lost their shirt last year in the black market, and they're having trouble continuing this year with prices as low as they already are. There's legislation pending in Washington, D.C. that might exempt states from the Controlled Substances Act and effectively end prohibition as we know it in America, and that promises to accelerate the price declines and the decline in motive to grow it illegally.
And the state recently finalized its rules for cannabis companies. The companies that have been operating were doing so under temporary emergency ones. And one of the final rules, one of the more controversial ones, now allows marijuana deliveries to cities and counties, even those that have banned pot businesses. How will this affect the industry, and is it likely to face legal challenges?
It could face legal challenges. There's opponents of statewide delivery, including police and cities who want to control what happens in their town. But again, if you want to undercut the black market, you want to provide access to Californians, especially those 75% of Californians that are in these banned towns. The final rules codify an existing reality, which is that these statewide deliverers can deliver into any city or county in the state. And the reality is that if statewide licensed, taxed, and regulated delivery is not an option, the black market will continue to be one. You can go on Instagram and Craigslist right now and order up cannabis, and consumers need a better option.
Now that we do have legalization, what do you think are the big cannabis trends for 2019?
We're going to see a variety of smaller, lower dose products come out. The cannabis flower buds that people are familiar with, the dried ones that people roll in joints, that's about the lowest common denominator in terms of modalities and formulations. We're seeing edibles that are precision dosed to 1, 2, 3, or 4 milligrams of THC, the main active ingredient in cannabis. So you can have an effect that's like one beer, where it might not affect you at all, and you might need to have 1 or 2 or 3 doses for you to even notice that. We're also seeing more specification in terms of the types of effects you're getting. So not only are you controlling how strong the effects are, but people are starting to dial in just pain relief and no euphoria or just inflammation relief. We're even seeing particular cannabis products that decrease appetite instead of stimulate it.
Very interesting. David Downs, California Cannabis Bureau Chief for Leafly.com. Always nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Twee.
Insurance claims from California's November 2018 wildfires top $11 billion, making the series one of the most expensive in state history. The numbers were released today by the State Department of Insurance. $8 billion of the claims come from the Camp Fire, which killed more than 80 people. The remaining $3 billion are from fires that started the same week. While recovery continues, insurance officials believe victims will be reimbursed.
We know that the insurers have the money they need to make sure that we can make the claims whole. So regardless of who's at fault, we are confident that the insurers have the money to make sure that we make people whole.
Damages are expected to increase over time with additional claims. Updated figures will be released in April. It's nice out there now, but some changes are on the way. A storm is coming to San Diego. Meteorologist Brittany Boyer has more.
Hopefully everyone had a great Monday. We are looking pretty pleasant for the first half of the week. However, as we head toward the end of the week, we'll have a couple of opportunities for some rain and possibly even some accumulating snowfall as we head closer to the weekend. Of course, that's going to be into the higher elevations. As we look at things locally right now, you can see we have a couple of patchy clouds, but hey, temps today, not bad. We got into the low 70s, and our average high for this time of the year is about 65 degrees. So we've actually been running about 1.5 degrees above normal for the month of January. So there you go. Things have been pretty good. And as we head into tonight, we'll have some areas of low clouds and maybe some patchy fog out there. Temperatures overall sitting in the 40s and 50s as we head into tonight and tomorrow. Another great day. You can see that will be pleasant here in Southern California with a chillier air mass to our north and east out toward the Four Corners. Into Chula Vista for tomorrow, 69 degrees, Oceanside 68, and out in Borrego Springs, temperatures are going to be in the upper 70s. So hopefully you can get outside and enjoy it, because later this week, that's where the forecast starts to go downhill. You can see that we will be introducing rain. And yes, that rain is going to be making its way into San Diego, and also even some mountain snow possible as well. So we're going to take you into a couple of the forecasts here with a closer inspection. You can see Tuesday into Wednesday, pleasant days. Temperatures slightly above average, but here comes some cooler air and also even some rain on Thursday. Closer to the coast, we're looking at about 1/4 to 1/2 inch of rain, so there could be some travel impacts out there. Again, that's on Thursday, and we'll have even more moisture as we get closer to the weekend. Inland, a little bit warmer, mainly sunny skies, and we'll also be seeing some steady rain as we head into Thursday. Cloudy skies on Friday, and additional rainfall on Saturday as well. Into the mountains, you can see the forecast here. Very nice Tuesday and Wednesday, but we will be looking at some chilly conditions and possibly some accumulating snowfall as we get above 7,000 feet by the weekend. A couple of inches possible there. And in the deserts, also some steady rain Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We'll send it back to you. For KPBS, I'm meteorologist Brittany Boyer.
The Old Globe is rolling out a play with ties to the blockbuster movie Black Panther. Familiar is a play about family. KPBS Arts Calendar editor Nina Guerin spoke with the show's director and star.
The only connection to Black Panther that this play has is the writer, which is Diane Guerra. An amazing writer. Not only is she an amazing writer, but of course in Black Panther she's an amazing actress in that as well, and of course in The Walking Dead. But I knew her first as a writer.
Tell me more. How did you like her work? Were you
Oh God, yes, I loved her work. She did this play called The Convert. I was doing a play at the Goodman. Those two plays came together at the same time. And again, her plays are often rooted in the African diaspora. And I think that there are not a lot of plays that are rooted in the African diaspora, because this is a black story, but her stories always seem to hit universal themes. And this play, Familiar, it's about a family who's getting ready to go to a wedding. The only difference is that it's an African family, Zimbabwean family, and where things are very familiar to us like they would be to the audience who've experienced weddings, and you know how crazy those could be.
My name is Shireen Snow, and I play Marvelous.
Okay, and will you tell us a little bit about the character Marvelous?
Oh my God, Marvelous is from Zimbabwe. She is a doctor. She does research on, DNA and things like that. She is the matriarch of her family here in the United States. She's can appear to be a little standoffish. People have a hard time, in her family, have a hard time communicating with her. It's pretty much is her way or no way, or the highway.
Familiar is really well written. There are a lot of really wonderful things in the piece that happen to the family, like they happen in all families. So hence, I mean, no pun intended, familiar, but family, familiar with the experience. And it's universal in terms of the characters that, one sees in their own family.
Even when we're not on stage as a cast, for those of us who are speaking with Zimbabwean accent and speaking Shoshona, we do it off stage. When we talk to each other, we talk to each other like this, I don't know, what is wrong with you? Why can't you, why are you having a problem with, so we talk like that to each other, just having everyday conversation.
So you've had to learn some of the language.
Oh my God, yes. It's in the script.
Can you say something to us?
What
was that? What does that mean?
It's What is this doing here? What's going on?
Why do you think they should see this show anyway?
Because it's, in the end, it's not about multicultural. It's about family. And it's about the experiences that you share within your family that has nothing to do with race at all. So I think that anybody who comes to see it will recognize themselves and will recognize their family members.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I loved it.
Now, here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, the stories of people escaping the campfire have stayed in the minds of many, how communities in fire zones are trying to improve evacuation plans. And on Midday Edition, social justice on the silver screen, the personal stories of struggle and triumph featured in this year's Human Rights Watch Festival tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.